Finance from ABSA, going off the beat, overcoming all obstacles.
The Toyota Kalahari Botswana 1000 Desert Race continues, and after almost 1,000 kilometers of racing, it was Marc Cronje and co-driver Chris Birkin who were leading the whole shootout, albeit with a slightly modified Hilux. Force and his nav, Richard Leek, as 7-time champion here at the Desert Race, were closing the gap. But, as he said, overtaking in the dust was not the easiest thing to achieve. Corbett and Balzar were putting together a massive drive and compiled the third fastest second-day drive of all. And Harkers was copying him. He and co-driver Jean Moore had climbed 13 places and were flying along. Cully and Quinton Solwald were still setting the pace in the specials and galloping along, but behind them the gap was closing. The other father and son combination, the Harpers, had their eyes on a fine Father's Day present, a win at the Desert Race. Chris Visser and Japie Badenhorst were still steady as she goes and ready to pick up the pieces should any fall apart. Little did they know. A third spot in the specials was still firmly in the grasp of Variava and Rousseau, who were 6 odd minutes behind the Harpers. Hutchison and Bergman in the Motorrad Bat have not exactly had the best of seasons, but here in the African bush, they seem to have things turned around with 2 very good days. While the absolute bat of Gibson and Brown was still sounding in great nick with almost a punishing 1,000 kilometers under its belt. When Bevan Berthold builds up a head of steam, he is fast, and he was clearly very steamy here. While his older brother Gary was just behind him, pushing hard to get back into the top 5. In the Ramankung area and within smelling distance of the finish line, Woolridge and Shorthammer in the Ford Ranger had the bit between their teeth and were roaring along. However, at the front, Voss and Leek had passed a stricken Cronje and Birkin, who had hit a donkey, and in the subsequent mayhem had hit a tree stump. All this 65 kilometers from the finish. Voss is not a man who looks a gift horse in the mouth, and he floored it. Leek was overjoyed. It would mean an 8th win for this former SA champion here in the Botswana sand. Cronje's disaster elevated Corbett and Balzar's Nissan Navara to 2nd after they had driven with great care and reserve early on, from 26th all the way up to 2nd. It was a testimony to driving with head and with foot in check. The Solwalds were being put under increasing pressure by the Harpers, but their 1 minute and 26-second margin was solid enough. Even if this wrong slot here would have made them feel a little bit more nervous. Nick Harper is renowned for his fitness, and this Comrades Marathon green number runner applies himself well to the sport of off-road racing. However, they just couldn't catch the Solwalds. Visser and Badenhorst were very impressive on the homeward leg, and their consistency was richly rewarded as they cruised into a place in the top 3. The Castrol Toyota pair were 10th overall after the prologue and impressed friend and foe. Shamir Variava and Siegfried Rousseau in the Total Motorsport Porter were 3rd in class and had been there or thereabouts throughout. They were 8 minutes behind Solwald. But this wrong turn here didn't help a lot as they were trying to catch the Harpers in second. The Motorite team lost Cox on day one, but team manager Hutchinson kept a black and silver flag flying. They were just more than 10 minutes behind Cully Sulwald, but kept Variaba honest all the way. While Harkes just piled on the speed and the skill to slip into fourth in the SP class with a big Ford Ranger. The former special driver looked like he had found his way around the inside of a production car and done it well too. The absolute bat of Clint Gibson and Mike Brown was up into 5th place after a smooth start. Keep in mind that they were 23rd overall and 12th in class after the prologue. With the Ford of the defending SP class champions Woolridge and Shorthammer carving their way up the field to get into 5th place in the production car class, a fine run, even though he almost collected the gatepost. Marsh and Groenewald got the region racing lads and lasses smiling with a good performance. They were up into 6th in class, but that pesky post could have been the end of the road. The second Sulwald Transport Zarco was in the very capable hands of Herman and his co-driver Paul Helberg, and they were 7th in class after being ultra strong in the second half of each day. Further back there was still some serious scraps going on as Tollefson, with new knuckle and joint and rack and pinion in place, was flying, this time past Berthold and Costain, who seemed to be having their own trouble. Whitehouse and Langton had slotted into 8th place after being 28th at the start and were also a revelation with a very steady drive. With the brothers White, David and Gary in 9th, just 6 minutes further back. In Class B, there were no surprises. The Cries Jan and Hendrik made it a fine Father's Day when they recorded their 4th win in as many races in 2007. They are unstoppable. Cronje and Birken ground to a halt.